brothers. Good to see all of y'all here today, man. I wanted to make sure that we all got together. This is a legendary moment right here where we're sitting here looking at leadership. A bunch of brothers, whether it's in politics and business or in religion and spiritual leaders, and actually all of the above for all of us, family men, men that are serious and of consequence, and to get us all here together to talk about the state of America, the state of Black America, just to talk amongst the brothers like we always do. We normally do. This is how we've made quality decisions all our lives. Get with the brotherhood, just have some conversations, some dialogue, and we're doing it in Atlanta at Ryan's Restaurant and his office here, the retreat here in Atlanta. So, you know, we got our guest here, the one and only Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland. So you're our guest. Welcome to the A. Man. How do you feel?
It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I'm with three kings, man. This is beautiful. This is beautiful.
Yeah, glad to have you back, man. You've been to Atlanta a few times. We've been able to host you for events, for fundraisers, and all the above. Glad to have you here and a part of this conversation. We're just so thankful about your leadership across this country, but definitely for Maryland. And then we got a Baltimore kid right next to me, Jamal Bryant.
I'm with my mayor and my governor.
Dual citizen here.
That's right.
Right?
Somebody bring some half and half.
So listen, man, we got this Baltimore brother that's in Atlanta that's really leading on so many fronts. So we're proud of you. We're thankful for your leadership. You know all about this that we're going to be talking about today. And of course, on the business side of things, we got Ryan Wilson, the gathering spot, and now the retreat here. Thank you for your being here, your leadership. All of us got employees, we got payroll, we got businesses, got families. We're talking about children and all these things that we've been talking about. But one of the things, just to get us all started, is really to talk about how do we re-engage Black men right now at this time where we got 2026 midterm elections coming up, and then of course another presidential cycle. But how do we get through? How do we bring Black men into this conversation, making sure that sometimes they feel ignored, sometimes they don't feel that their voice is being heard? What are some of your thoughts on that, Governor?
Well, first, Black men have been ignored. And I think we have to be honest about that. I think oftentimes what happens is we have these conversations on election years about what happens with Black men, and then it's oftentimes people like, well, where were you on the off years? Right. Don't just come to me on the on years.
Right. Yeah.
Where were you on the off years? And I think that for a lot of the frustration that a lot of Black men feel about just the entire political system and that type of thing, we have to acknowledge the fact that it's real.
Yeah.
And it's justified.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell a story. I said, listen, I had to convince members of, when I told them I was running for governor, I had to convince members of my family to vote for me. You know what I mean? And it's not that we're not cool. Like, I had to convince them to vote. Just to come out. Just to make their voice heard.
Right.
And so I think we cannot just simply think the engagement of Black men is something that has to be an electoral strategy. Right? It's something that actually has to be a national sustainability and excellence strategy.
Yeah.
That when we are talking about what are we doing to create more Brian Wilsons?
Yeah.
Right? What are we doing to create more Dr. Jamal Bryants? What are we doing to create more Andre Dickens? Like, we have to be clear about creating that real pathway to, as we say, is work and wages and wealth. For us, making sure that people understand that we're not a set aside. Nor are we a demo that needs to be saved,
right?
But that actually really understand the value that Black men have always historically brought, and know that is something that's going to be necessary and required, not just for a political victory, right, but actually for this nation to achieve what this nation's actually hoping to achieve.
Yeah. So it ain't just about the vote. We got to engage brothers on everything in life.
If you are wondering why you didn't earn Black men's vote, it's because that's all you cared about.
Wow.
And you haven't been doing the work prior.
Yeah. Pastor, what do you think on that?
To get up to my church right after the pandemic. I'm a third generation preacher. And I had to apologize to my church because in 50 years of being in the Black church, I have never seen the Black church give a scholarship to a young man who wanted a CDL license. I've never seen a black church help a young man go to barber school. We picked one area and said college is your only way. So we took W.E.B. Du Bois and threw away Booker T. And if you do anything outside of that, we don't know how to celebrate it. But what we learned from the pandemic in a crash course is you can be successful without a degree. And how do we celebrate that and pull that up? And just in announcing it, the amount of men that came and said, Pastor, I didn't even feel like there was a space for me, a place where I can be valued. And we're quick, Governor, to make a wrong correlation of saying, well, because the current president is a repeat felon, why can't black men? And black men were offended by the comparison. To say that this is the only common ground that you can find for me. There's got to be something else that I bring to the table. So I think that we've got to enlarge, and I'll speak for the black church and its failure, that something is wrong if the mosque is 80% men and the church is 80% women. Is that the church has focused on emotion and the mosque has focused on instruction. So if you can give me some direction and some understanding, not turn to my neighbor, shake their hand, but tell me how it is in concrete steps on how it is that I move. I say often, Ryan, the success of Islam in the black community is because of the failure of the black church. Is you can't forget that Malcolm X was the son of a Baptist preacher. But when he went to jail, nobody from the church went to go see him. Nobody invested in him. Yeah, you can't forget that Mr. Farrakhan was an acolyte in the Episcopal Church. But nobody really tapped into it. And so the church's responsibility is understanding that the choir used to have 4-part harmony. Now we got to make 3 women sing tenor. Because ain't no men there. Ain't no men in the choir. So I think that is not just in politics, but the faith community has got to do some redress of not on election day. Do you want the men outside of Men's Day? And is there a job for men outside of being a deacon and security? And if you can't find something to help them to grow and to move, then they're going to opt out and not be involved and engaged.
Brothers are definitely concerned about all of the above, and we don't need to just pigeonhole them into a few categories. And Ryan, you know best as a business owner, all of the men that you see come through here and all the conversations we have across this city, what do you think about how to engage black men?
I mean, I think we're talking about it, right? Folks want to participate in the game, and I think a lot of times we don't talk about just that simple fact, right? People want to play too, and be able to take care of their families and understand that, like, anything that is happening in all of these different cities, certainly here in Atlanta, they have access to. I'm a big believer, though, that it is hard to become something that you haven't seen before. So we've got to do a better job of giving those examples. And I applaud you, Mayor, because if you look at the Year of the Youth, right, a lot of those efforts were about exposure, right? It was about finding opportunities to make sure that our youth could see what they wanted to be in the future. And that sounds simple, y'all, but I think that's really where we're able to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. He's talking about the Year of the Youth. What we did was we said that in the city of Atlanta, we want us to be the best place in the nation to raise a child. Now, I know you want to do that as well, but we're working real hard on that. We said it first.
But you got to name it.
You got to name it. You got to set a big, audacious goal. And brothers respond to that. They get behind that. And so when we say the Year of the Youth, every single aspect of the city of Atlanta has to have some point of reference to youth. In the recycling plant, they need to train people how these kids can learn how to become, more eco-friendly and how to deal with our environment. Whether it's in the legal profession or whether it's in parks and recreation, every single aspect of our city has to have interns. We had the most interns ever in the city's history, and we have the highest graduation rate ever in Atlanta's history because of the Year of the Youth and partnerships and what I call the group project. And the group project looks like this table. The group project looks like working with clergy, business, and making sure our government are aligned. And so that brings me to another question, like, where does real power, and what does real power look like? Is it economic? Is it political? Is it spiritual? Of course. But brothers want to get connected to power. When you talk to brothers, you know, the younger brothers, they want some bread, they want some money, but they also want money, power, and respect. Does that come in the form of business? Does it come in the form of governmental power? Is it coming in the form of religious power, bringing us all together? Brothers, you know, this is part of the conversation. What does real power look like? You know,
I mean, I would say real power comes in the ability of not having to choose. That's real power.
Yeah.
You can't tell me what I can't do. You can't tell me what box I'm supposed to fit in. You can't tell me what is my lane.
Yeah.
I define my lane. I determine my lane. In fact, I don't even have a lane. I got a lens. That's power.
Yeah.
That is power.
When you walk into a space and you know that I am not in that space because of someone's kindness, I'm not in that space because of someone's good wishes, I'm not in that space because of someone's benevolence, I'm not in that space because someone wanted to sprinkle diversity into the room, I'm not in that space because I was there to check a box. I'm in that space because that space was incomplete until I showed up. That's power.
That's power.
That's great.
That's power.
That's power.
Wealth is, I think the power is in that wealth, and wealth meaning options. That I'm able to choose. And I think that what we're seeing under this presidential administration is that they only recognize the power of wealth. We've got over $2 trillion worth of spending power. What is amazing, Governor, is I say to people, before I was a pastor, I was National Youth Director at NAACP. The Klan never bombed the NAACP office. They never bombed the Urban League office. They bombed Black Wall Street because they understood, if we understand how much power we have in our wealth. Dr. King found his life snuffed out shifting from civil rights to silver rights. Is galvanizing the Poor People's Campaign. To see what we have done in this Target boycott, for them to lose $12 billion, for their valuation to go down by $4 billion, for their stock to move from $145 a share to $93 a share. When we're just 13% of the population, it says where our power is. And if we ever begin to unify our power, because Black people are America's #1 consumer and least producer. When, Ryan, 82% of Black people don't own a single piece of stock, then we got to figure out how we're investing and how we're moving. And that's why your legacy of Maynard Jackson and how you're coming behind it, of raising up the standard of what Black business is supposed to look like, and Black wealth. And the reason why I underscore it is because I shudder when Black wealth is synonymous with entertainment. And not with business. And so what it is that you're doing here in the city of creating business space for us that's not connected to singing, dancing, and acting, but making those transactions, and Ryan being the ambassador of that, really speaks to how it is that I create not just wealth, but I exude the power of who it is that we are as a community.
But you know what? And one of the many things I love about my dear brother Dr. Bryant is the words he used matter. Wealth. We're not talking income. Wealth. A lot of times people think those two words are just completely, they're interchangeable, or they are not the same. They're not the same. Wealth. The ability to own more than you owe, the ability to pass something off to your children besides debt, right? The ability to have something to tap into in good times and bad times. Wealth.
I love it.
That's sustainable. That's durable. And nobody can, when you have wealth, an income someone can adjust. An income someone can say, we're going to give you a little more, give you a little less. Income. Wealth. You own that. And I love that I love the focus on wealth in this moment.
Businesses, I mean, that's a great wealth generator right there. You know, whether it's your real estate businesses or it's businesses like what you have right here. Talk about how that plays out into this power conversation.
I mean, I heard a long time ago, there's only two real ways to make money in America. You have to start something or invest in something, right? So we've got to, again, back to this idea of getting people in the game, we've got to make sure folks understand those fundamentals, right? You either have to start something, right? And we have a lot of conversations in Atlanta about entrepreneurship. A lot of positive things are happening here, right? But to your point, where we are is that 96% of our businesses don't employ anyone, right? So,
Wow.
when you're looking at a community that doesn't have the ability to offer a high quality job, so many bad things come from just that simple fact. So, I mean, we're working hard, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm optimistic, and I think folks have to see that too. Right? It's not, a lot of these stats they're tough. It's not all doom and gloom, and I think part of our responsibility in this moment is to start to pivot to that part of the conversation. Like, what are we actually going to do? And maybe that leads me to a question. What is giving y'all hope? There's a lot of things that we could say that are tough at the moment. What are you excited about, optimistic about when you're talking to folks that are giving you bad news? I don't think that you can get to this place, right, without fundamental belief that there is always more or better coming. So what are you telling folks right now?
Well, I'll tell you this. One thing that I'm enjoying is watching the diversity of thought amongst black people. Right now, you got black folks that's like, I'm minding my black business. I don't know what. You see it in the comments. They're like, oh, how'd y'all like the movie yesterday? And somebody just talked about something real critical. Like, these folks was all Trump this and Trump that, and Trump is now deporting them. Right? And so there's black folks that's like, I'm minding my business. But then there's other folks that's empowered around economic inclusion. This whole conversation about, let's get insular. Let's start focusing on how to, circulate that dollar more within our communities. Like let's start funds to support businesses. Let's start funds to be able to help buy up the block, if you will. So I'm interested in how that's going down and all of the things that we're doing to align with that, how we continue to make quality investments into our communities, because no matter who's in the White House, we still have a job to do in our communities. We still have to be the guardians of our communities. We have to be the ones that make the next, whatever the next is in Atlanta is going to start with us. And so I'm hearing a diversity of thought, and some people are in the fight the power movement, right? They're right now like, hey, let's take it to them. Let's go yell at the White House. And so the diversity of thought is something I'm very interested in, so that we don't get into this monolith where all of us are thinking one way. As long as we're all rowing in the direction of our justice, our freedom, and our economic empowerment and our inclusion, all of that, especially when we got our eyes set on our children as well, to be able to have a brighter future, I'm very, very excited about what I see across the country, even though we still got this, first 100 days of Trump still just occurred, and we're like, man, he didn't solve none of the problems he said he was going to solve in the first 100 days. So we're watching a country be able to see how Trump has lied, how Trump has not delivered, and then now we're sitting in Black America saying, okay, let's make our move.
I'm excited about the younger generation who's coloring outside the lines, who are considered creatives when it's not attached to the arts. But they are redefining their own life journey and path in terms of how they do business, how they see finance, how they see themselves, is just awe-inspiring. My daughter's at Spelman on her hall. One girl's doing hair, somebody's doing nails, somebody's doing graphic design.
I love it.
Somebody's doing video, but everybody's doing their own thing. Now, mind you, none of them businesses have gone through the state of Georgia. They paying each other through Cash App.
Cash App.
Yes, but the way that they even have the mind to be able to do it. When we were in college, you had to try to get a job in the library. Try to do something in the cafeteria. But they're doing their own skill set and their own passion and really making moves. There's a lot of young millionaires in Atlanta. Really. And they are not working a 9 to 5. A lot of them don't have degrees, but they have passion, they have discipline, and they have commitment. And I love to see it.
I mean, listen, I think one of the things that's giving me hope right now also is just history. You know what I mean? Like, when you have a context of everything that we've been through and everything we've seen, it adds a real context to what you're seeing right now. You know, and listen, we could go on for days about the fact that, you know, we have someone who is sitting in the White House who is just so diabolically distant from where any of us are.
Right.
That's not a new phenomenon in this country.
Yeah.
You know, this country elected people like Cleveland and Woodrow Wilson. And this country is also the home of folks like Douglas and Marshall. So I think the thing that also gives me a real sense of hope inside this moment is we've seen this before, guys.
Yeah.
And nothing new.
Yeah.
And the reason that we are all sitting here in this beautiful spot on a beautiful day with amazing brothers and talking about these issues is because despite the fact that folks before us were coming up in some really harsh conditions, but they still were willing to put in the work for the hope of us.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the thing that continues to give me lift.
Yeah.
Even in the tough days, even in the challenging days, even the days I'm like, I cannot believe what this man just said or what they just signed.
Yeah.
I think to myself, imagine having that conversation, you know, with Harry Tubman telling about how tough my day was. You know what I mean?
I can't get Wi-Fi.
I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like imagine that conversation.
Right.
And then it helps you to put it all in perspective.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Our tradition is strong.
It's so strong.
And I think we have to remind people of that. I have a question. Well, really for all of y'all. Y'all are all leading in different ways. Leadership in this moment, I think, is requiring something a little bit different. So talk about, like, how are you approaching how to lead in what is a difficult time for a lot of folks? Have you had to change it, your approach, or like?
Now, I think right now, leadership requires authenticity.
Yeah.
Authenticity. People want to see the genuine article. Like everything is on display right now. Yeah. Every time we are on social media, every time we're out in the public, people are watching us. Yeah. And I mean us specifically, the four of us, and I mean us generally. And that authenticity has served me well in my whole life and is serving me well right now. That I'm not shook at this moment, because like you said, you're aware of the history. I know I got colleagues and friends and family and people that pray for me, and as I pray for them. So authenticity is the realest thing I got. And I think that helps because all the things I've been through in my life, all the things this city has matured through, all the things that I know about us it's going to require our faith. It's going to require our commitment, and it's going to require us to do it together. It's a group project. I say Atlanta's a group project. This whole life that we're in right now is a group project. This moment is a group project for us, particularly as black men. And so being our authentic selves, every room we walk in, when we talking to the brothers in the barbershop, they game recognize game. They can sniff it out. They can tell. Even from your dap. You know, your dap. You give them some whack dap, they like,
But I want to herald the two of you, Mayor and Governor, because history will have to record that the two of you rescued diplomacy as a dying art form. Is what we are seeing in the Oval Office in terms of our dear comrade from the Ukraine, the Prime Minister from Canada. We're not seeing diplomacy and graciousness. My grandmother would say class. No, really. And so even in authenticity, because a lot of times we will dismiss it in the subculture under the banner of keeping it real.
You're right.
So that gives me license to say whatever I want to say or how I'm keeping it 100. But really on how we just passed the Met Gala, and a word we no longer hear is gentleman. Everybody want to be a no-limit soldier. But for you all to really operate in class, even in faces of opposition, where people don't always agree with what you say or what you're trying to get done, but to be able to keep your comportment, because there was an era where we didn't have the space to show anger, to show disappointment, where we couldn't push back. But for you all both in town hall meetings, having to meet with people in the street of like, hey, I'm pointing my finger at you. I don't like your taxes, schools, or homeless people. But you say, oh, pray for me. No, really. And I want to say that you for the state of Maryland and you for Atlanta, because I don't have another perch to say it in, is you're not just leading the people, you're pastoring them in a place of, Mom, I know you mad right now.
I know you mad,
I know you don't understand it, but we're trying to get there. And people never have space for black men's emotions until they explode.
Come on,
So you can have all of that compounded pain, and then when I reach my boiling point, then here's another angry black man. And nobody knows for all of us, whether it's delays in your building, whether it's taxes in Maryland, whether it's homelessness or people who are
whatever
outside agitators. Nobody ever goes home with you to say, man, how did you decompress that? I mean, Harriet Tubman was able to say I could have saved 100 more, but they didn't know that they were bound, so I had to take a Bible and a gun. If either of you assert, whoever ain't getting on this program, I got a gun with me, then the whole campaign is over. But I just wanted to put as an asterisk the dignity of leadership is showing us as black men how to serve in opposition when I'm not in Vietnam.
Well, one thing to add on to that is we are the people they can get closest to. So they mad at Trump. They're mad at something that they can't get a hold of. They can't get at him, but they can catch me real good at the grocery store. And they mad. They're mad at something, and they either want me to do something about him or do something about that issue. And you're right. I have to be a gentleman. I have to have some diplomacy because their issue is real to them. It may not even be true, but it's real. It's real up in here. They might they done stated some fact like don't nobody do nothing, and you be like, hold up now, you just saw it. Well, your stats are wrong, but it's real. We can do more. So it may not be true, but it's real, and I gotta take that with me and deal with that. And that's what you do at church. That's what you do in business. That's what you do in this great state. The great state of Maryland. So leadership right now looks like a balancing act. It looks like, but you got to bring your whole self to the table because you'll either grow weary and well-doing, or you'll start fighting folks that you start fighting ghosts, as my pastor would say.
Can I ask a tough question? And I know y'all have to get back to running a state and a city.
This food is so good. The food, the conversation. You need, Rob.
I think it's important for us to talk about though. Y'all both have run and are part of you're Democrats, right? And there's a lot of conversation about what the party needs to be saying specifically to black men and how we need to be thinking about the next set of elections. What are you saying to people back at home and here in the city about just the state of the party? And again, this narrative that's out there that like black men, we weren't a part of the 92%, right? We didn't show up in the same numbers.
Right.
Why is that? I guess is first part of my question. And then two, like, what do we need to be saying as a party and as people, right, to folks that feel like they're not a part of the conversation anymore with Democrats?
I mean, one, I actually don't know if it's about what are we saying. I think it's what are we doing. I just really believe that part of the problem is that we think this is a rhetorical exercise that we're getting wrong. It's not. It's deeper than that. Because if people actually felt that they were being seen, supported, lifted up, then what we say or the slogan we use would not be the issue. I think the thing that is deeply frustrating people is the policies haven't translated. That the policies haven't been able to create real pathways to long-term sustainable wealth. That the pathways haven't done that. And so it's interesting because what we have tried to do for example, in our state, where when we said that we were going to be unapologetic about our focus on making sure that we can lift up our black businesses, unapologetic about what we're going to do to put a focus on around young men and boys. And I love that you talked about, when we talk about actually naming it for young people, that this isn't to the exclusion of our seniors or older adults.
That's right.
And it's the same thing where I say, where we became the first state that said we're going to put a focus on really lifting up and elevating our young men and boys. That wasn't to the exclusion of our women, but it was saying if you were just looking at the data, you cannot ignore the fact that there is something going on.
Right.
And we have to be able to name this.
That's right.
And so the focus that we have put on everything from doing a full procurement reform to make sure that our black-owned businesses are getting a fair share of capital, where just in our first 2.5 years, we've now increased the amount of capital going to black-owned business by $3.5 billion over from what happened before. Yeah. The fact that we've done things like expungement reform and giving people a genuine chance at a second chance, because I'm a big believer, and again, my faith teaches me that we are a culture and a society of second chances. And my faith teaches me that not every sentence should be a life sentence. Right? The fact that we, signed the largest mass pardon in the history of this country for misdemeanor cannabis conviction, 175,000 convictions wiped away in the stroke of a pen. Because I find it insane that you can now have a legalized industry in my state, and I have people who still cannot get a barber's license. Right? So I think it's about, are we willing to do the work? Are we willing to address, unfair appraisal values in historically black neighborhoods? Are we willing to address the fact that we have capital that has not come to our small businesses, particularly in this friends and family realm, because not everybody has the same friends and not everybody has the same family. Right? Are we willing to do this? Because I'm a big believer, if we are doing the work, you can call it what you want. Put whatever slogan you want on it. You're going to get me. Because I actually feel like you see me in the way that you're actually pushing your policies.
One of the things, bravo to you. Like getting things done is what brothers respond to. We all, talk about things that we've completed, tasks that we're working on, things that we're getting done. We're action oriented. And so what I think about is, how are brothers feeling seen as well? Everybody wants to matter. That's something I've learned on this job, is everybody wants to matter. Everybody sends you an email, a phone call. People just want to be in your proximity. They want to matter. And so what we've allowed to happen over time is for somebody else to set the agenda for brothers. Brothers are saying what they want. We have to listen and respond with actions, like 175,000 pardons, to be able to make sure that a brother ain't going to jail over a cannabis, possession. Like that is real stuff that he can see and everybody can see. Or simply put, to not, like you said, don't try to force everybody into this type of scholarship for college. Hey, we're standing in a restaurant. HVAC systems are expensive, and when and it's hot in Atlanta, and that HVAC man gets paid because you need him quickly, and you need that air back on if it goes out.
And there's no app you can push. There's no one in another country you're gonna call to fix it.
You can't TikTok this air to work. Absolutely. And so what I'm thinking about is, going right where the brothers are. Everybody else gives us their agenda items. Them agenda items got so filled up in that last election, Kamala Harris had 107 days to try to get everybody's agenda item done. That's not possible. And so for us, brothers got an agenda, and we need to make sure that we go ahead on and hear it, state it, and put it out there, and then iteratively improve upon it. And that's where we're going to get the Democratic Party to be able to respond to the brothers so that they can go and turn out this vote next time. And even prior to that, continue to lead in their communities with our support.
After Mandela got out of jail and became president, he went around South Africa and did a series called Truth and Reconciliation. So he said, forget the legislation, I need to know the heart of the trauma of what you've experienced. And so that you have voice to your pain. And I think that black men in large measure want to know what the governor intonated. Do you want to know what I feel when it's an off cycle? Do you know what it is that I'm am really looking for? How am I not an essential worker? What makes me matter, and are you offering things that I am interested in? When I was pastoring in Baltimore, Governor, I had a gun buyback program. I'm embarrassed. Just before our dear brother Brandon brought the murder rate down.
This is Brandon Scott.
That's
Shout
right.
out to Brandon Scott.
That's right.
And Governor, we opened up at 9 a.m. It was 9 to 4. Whatever weapons you got, we're gonna give you $200.
Yeah.
The line was around the church.
Wow.
3 o'clock, guys pulled up in a black Navigator, popped the trunk, it's full of weapons. I said to the chair of the deacon board, hey man, you gotta go to the bank. I ain't got money for all of this. And the young man, I said to him, I'm gonna need you to wait a minute. I don't have money for all of these guns. And he said to me, Rev, I don't want your money. Can you give me a job? And I realized that I was not helping. That I was putting a Band-Aid on what required open heart surgery. As I was placating to a narrative that didn't address what these men really wanted. Is not $200. Give me a viable option.
Right.
To get off the street. Show me something that I can do that would be progressive for my mama. For my kids. And we had to shift it, our whole narrative and how it is that we did it. And so, Governor, I trained all of the young men how to do Forex trade. Because you didn't need a degree. You already had a phone.
That's right. That's
Overseas trading is 1 in the morning. That's your hot pocket anyway.
That's right.
So I said, listen, you go around and tell people you a broker. That you in the market and you do it globally. They was out of hands, briefcases. But it did something for their self-esteem that the $200 could never do. Because I never asked the question, what did you want? I was just trying to give solutions to a problem they weren't raising. And so I think part of our responsibility is to hear different, not listening to react. But listening on how do I appropriately respond.
Let's maybe end there, right? We talked about this is a tradition that I think we have to make sure that folks continue, right? Just coming around the table talking about issues. So maybe in conclusion, right, for folks that are going to watch this conversation, what advice, encouragement do you have for them just about how they can do this in their communities? Like, how can people immediately start to participate to make all of the changes that we've been talking about happen?
I'll say one is to, first have the conversations and have them openly or have them privately, but make sure we have the conversations. And we have them now when there's not an election looming over our head where everybody's in an emergency, as you said, Governor. Let's have them now. Let's have them about business, have them about family, have them about anything you want to talk about. But let's get to the action part of that conversation. And then, come bring it to the rest of the table. Bring it to your spiritual leadership, your business leadership, your political leadership, and let's have it. And by the way, the sisters will applaud us for us having these conversations. They want us to have these conversations. So I say we should do more of this and have these conversations anywhere, anytime, and not just in one city or state, but all over the country.
I would say a mutual friend of the governor's, as pastor out of Baltimore, Bishop Walter Thomas, he challenged me some years ago and said, start following people online you don't agree with, whose ideology is different, whose politics is different. So all of us come from similar backgrounds. We got a similar perspective on life, but have conversations with Republicans. Have conversations with people who don't believe in free enterprise, have conversations who don't want to give access to capital and ardent opponents to DEI, to have more healthy, robust conversations. I think that we can go a lot further just in having the art of conversation.
I love it.
And so in doing that, I think broadens the landscape.
I agree so much with both of those. And I'd say also study history. Especially when we are finding that our history is so under attack right now. because I have a very clear understanding that the reason that our history is under attack is not because it makes other people feel uncomfortable. That's not the reason. The reason is because when you know your history, you know how powerful you are.
Wow.
And the reason that I know for each of us that we can walk into any space and never feel like I have to bend my head anywhere I go.
Right.
Is because I know my history.
Yeah.
Right. And so I would say the most powerful thing that people can really do and really understand is whether it is your family's journey, whether it is your community's journey, whether it is our people's journey, whether it's this country's journey or the globe's journey. Know your history. Because if you know your history, then nothing about the future feels scary or intimidating.
That's great.
It's a perfect place to leave. Mayor, thank you for bringing us together.
Yeah. Thank y'all for coming
feeding
together.
us, Ryan.
No.
Thank you.
Yes, man.
I feel like these are the Avengers, man.
That's it.
All right, Ryan, we're gonna eat some of this good food. We're gonna eat some of this good food, man.
Oh, yes.
All right, let's do it.
We'll see y'all later.
Appreciate y'all.